From HPAC Magazine, this is Business Disruptors. Hi, it's Doug Picklick. I'm the editor of HPAC Magazine, and welcome to Business Disruptors, a podcast where we speak with mechanical and plumbing contractors who are bringing something different to the plumbing, heating, and cooling industry in Canada. In this episode, I speak with James Blanchett, owner of Canuck Mechanical in Prince George, British Columbia. In our previous Business Disruptors episodes, I've spoken with business leaders that all came from outside the HVAC industry, and they're all bringing a digital-first approach to the residential plumbing and HVAC business. In this case, James has taken over Canuck Mechanical from his father, a business that started in 1983. And he's developed a strong brand in the community with an emphasis on traditional principles like being well organized, quality craftsmanship, branding, customer service, and building a strong team. We touch on all of this as well as his love for curling and his passion for fishing. All right, let's get to my conversation with James of Canuck Mechanical. But first, this short break. This episode is brought to you by Wolseley Canada. You've got jobs to run and timelines to hit. Wolseley Canada makes that easier than ever with multi-brand product solutions for any plumbing or HVAC project, online ordering available around the clock, and clear lead times so there are no surprises on site. When you need expert support, over 2,500 experts are ready across 170 plus locations nationwide. Find your nearest branch or order online at wolseleyexpress.com. Wolseley Canada, your project, our priority. Welcome. I'm here today with James Blanchett. Blanchett? How do I say that?
James Blanchett, just like the famous actress Cate Blanchett. Same way.
Very, very nice. James Blanchett of Canuck Mechanical in Prince George, British Columbia. Canuck Mechanical, this is a little background I did, started in 1983.
Yes.
It's been growing over the last few years. You're on social media, and if anyone follows the latest in hydronic installations, there's no avoiding the spectacular Canuck Mechanical photos and videos. We'll get to that a little bit later. But first, hi, James. And just where exactly are we finding you this morning?
So, Doug, I'm here currently right here in my office here in Prince George, British Columbia. We, ironically, we moved into this location, about 20 years ago, but our history goes even further back on this actual street. But that's where I am right now. So if the phone rings or if there's a bit of chaos, bear with me, but yeah, that's the joys of running a business.
Okay, no, that's perfect. So for people who don't know Prince George, I know it's called the northern capital of BC, population of around 100,000.
Yeah, more or less 100,000. We serve some outlying areas, some smaller communities, but basically, yes, if you look at the middle of British Columbia, more or less, we are right there. We're the biggest hub. North of probably 100 Mile House or further on about that. And big part of our industry up here is, well, there's mining, there's forestry, a whole bunch of things. But basically, the biggest industry that always drove this market was forestry for many, many decades and many, many, many years. So, yeah.
Okay, is that still the case today?
Still the case today. Obviously, it's waning here and there. There's some complications with tariffs in the USA and stuff like that right now. But we've been really fortunate, and there's other avenues that have been growing just in this industry. But like I say, historically, there was gold mining close by here. Everything. If you like the great outdoors and still want to be close to civilization, Prince George is where it's at, 100%.
And you, James Blanchett, born and raised in Prince George? What's your story?
Born and raised here. I was born in 1984. I've traveled all over the world. I've seen a lot of things, and I've always said to people, there's 3 places I would live. Right here in Prince George, Japan, and New Zealand. All similar clients, all similar people. And I know I speak biasly, but I honestly, I love Prince George. I think it's a great place to live for sure.
Okay, well let's get into how did you get into the plumbing and heating industry?
So that probably takes us back to my first year coming out of high school. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I had business aspirations, some other things. You believe when you're young, you're 17, 18 years old, you're going to go conquer the world, right? Or usually that's how it is. But when I got out of high school, I realized, what? When a year or two, oh, sorry, actually just about 6 months to a year in college, and realized, well, that was a waste of time. So my dad said, well, why don't we get real for a bit, and why don't you come work for me? Because at that time, my dad owned and operated Canuck Mechanical, and it at that time it had been around for about 20 years. So I said, okay, fine, let's start a plumbing apprenticeship. So in 2005, that's when I started it. So basically, we're coming on 20, 21 years now of me
Yeah,
being in this industry. And I didn't like it at first, Doug. I really
yeah,
didn't. I found it frustrating. And the reason why was because I didn't have control. I'd go to a job site, even as a first year apprentice, and I'd be like, well, I don't have this material. I don't have these parts. I don't have anything, and I realized there's got to be a way of doing stuff. And that kind of started me down that road of doing one of Canuck's most famous things that's known for is its organized cube vans and trucks. And we've gone through several iterations over the years with that, but that's really what set me on down that path of really enjoying what I'm doing. And that's one thing my mother and father, the two things I take away from is my mom said, you know what, when you're done with that toy, put it away. So there was that organization part. And my dad always said, if you're going to do something, do it right. So I figured I'd take those two things, merge them together. And people sometimes say I'm OCD. I just think I'm really fine-tuned and organized, right? So that's
very good.
basically how the trade entered for me and how I've basically developed kind of where we're at today. So
Okay, so did your father actually lead the business or own it at one time?
yeah, so he started it back up in 1983, a
Okay,
year before I was born. Prior to that, he had a company called Gary's Plumbing and Heating. His name is Gary, so obviously he named it after himself. Did very well for himself in the 1970s, late 70s, just into the early 80s before the big recession hit. He had a very large operation, lots of trucks. He even had semi trucks delivering rough-in supplies to a job site because they were doing a lot of commercial buildings at that time. And basically how that started was he got upset one day going to a job site and noticed that three of his trucks were all coming back the opposite way. And so he realized they were all coming and getting material. So he said, enough of that. We're going to deliver a semi truck on site there of all rough-in materials. Once that job is done or once that truck is empty, then they will deliver another semi truck with actual finishing supplies. So that way the guys could stay on the job site longer. And basically, in many ways, a version of a very large cube van, especially when you're going to site, you have all your stuff, all your material with you. You're not running back into the suppliers. So that started and was very successful for him. They had large semi trucks with Gary's Plumbing and Heating on it. And that's how he was be able to become successful and productive in the industry. And they were doing very, very well to the point, unfortunately, in 83 or 82, 83, he lost everything. He paid all his creditors, but nobody paid him. And so then he started over in 1983 and started Canuck Mechanical. And
okay.
people often ask, well, why the name? Are you a fan of the Canucks hockey team? And that's a good guess, but far from the truth. When I asked my dad that, and he said it was patriotism. If you're in the United States, it would be called Yankee Plumbing and Heating, and basically that's the
Yeah,
easiest definition, right?
yeah.
And then he put the maple leaf up there, and it's been there ever since.
Okay, I read somewhere that the company had started kind of in new construction only. And I know today you're doing like it's a full service business, right?
Correct, correct. Yeah, we've gone through several iterations over the years, doing new construction, doing, some commercial construction. We've dabbled with residential over the years. The problem with it is it can be very inconsistent, very low margins. What's the
Mm.
point? If you're not going to do this and, if you're not going to make a buck at the end of the day, what's
Yeah.
the point? And that's the sad truth, right? Especially when you have an industry that's in high demand. Most people will, want their AC fixed or want their hot water, by the end of the day. These are modern day conveniences that people will pay usually to get that done. And usually you can get paid the same day. Whereas if you're doing a lot of new construction and commercial jobs, sometimes you don't get paid for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that can hurt. So I found in the service industry, yes, there might be smaller, more intense jobs, but you can get paid and get that satisfaction of that job being done. So yeah, the new construction, it came and went. But unfortunately, just, it was a sign of the market and the times too, right? So
Yeah.
we've gone through many ups and downs, specifically in the 90s, where it was a little bit more difficult and kind of we fluctuated, so to speak, right? So, but it wasn't until really, in the last decade or so, we've really found our footing and just went with it.
Okay. And I mean, you've grown. It was plumbing and heating only, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you've
Well,
added AC, you've added drain cleaning,
mhm,
electrical, and now
yeah.
refrigeration. Is that right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it was never really the plan to begin with.
Okay.
Plumbing and heating, obviously, we were known for it. They go hand in hand, all the way through the 80s, through the 90s, 2000s. Air conditioning, or basically cooling in any format, was, something that we never really dove quite a bit into it. But, heating was always a big thing in Prince George. We're not in the middle of the Sahara Desert, so you don't need
Yeah.
cooling a lot, right? So it came and went, but it was kind of more of a novelty. Now these days, especially with a lot of new construction in BC, AC, you have to do AC, right? As part of your new build, right? So it's just becoming more and more common. But it wasn't until around 2021 I got tired of answering the phone calls with people saying, "Hey, I got a sewer backup." Well, sorry, we don't do drain cleaning. And well, I've tried everywhere in town, and it's Saturday, at 9 o'clock at night, and nobody will answer their phone. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's get into it. And if we're going to do it, it's not going to be cheap. We're going to make some money, but I'm sure people will want people to come. And I don't want to do every job, Doug, when it comes to sewer drain cleaning. I'm always upfront. I said it's going to be more money, but we can come and we will have somebody to come on your doorstep. And that's kind of what spawned on the drain cleaning division to now where we're actively growing, and we seem to be a daily occurrence with that, whereas we never did it before. It's nasty, ugly work sometimes, and I pay my guys more for doing it, but it's a reward because, it's something that, not everybody wants to do, especially in the service industry.
Well, is it residential or are you doing commercial too? I know restaurants, it's like it can be a
Yeah,
recurring business, right?
yeah. It's just like anything. When you spread out your tentacles, how far does that tentacle go into multiple other tentacles, right? And when you get into drain cleaning, do you get into jetting? Do you get into hydrovacing and all that stuff? So that can be very complicated, but if you stick within the realm of, okay, we'll just do some minor jetting for some minor lines and some, drain cleaning and augering for all your lines and root cutting, we can handle that. And that's where we can stay within our scope. And anything beyond that, usually we'll recommend other companies to do that, because if you put all your resources in expand into that, well, it limits you in other areas, right? So,
How
but
did
that
electrical come along?
so electrical, yeah. So in 2023, that was another avenue, and I said, you know what? Electrification is becoming more and more of a popular thing and seems to be the way of going with the electric cars, heat pumps, all that stuff. And I realized we're in someone's house already. Oh, do you have an electrician? Well, I guess you'll have to phone an electrician to get this AC unit hooked up or whatever, or get a dedicated circuit. And then I realized, there were a few companies that kind of did it all or did a bit, but I realized, why don't we do that? And that literally how it started. And it started with one electrician, one van, to the point now we have, I think, 4 electricians and 3 vans right now, specifically just focusing on the service side of things. We'll do the odd project here and there, but that's where I kind of wanted to go down that avenue with the electrical. And I'm not an electrician by trade. I'm a plumber gas fitter by trade. I do have an electrical endorsement, so I know enough just to, know within my limits and stay within my limits. But I found it really complements us because there's so many jobs that they can come and help us and do. And the nice thing about it too, Doug, is that, some of our electricians are very flexible and they want to learn other trades too and other things too. So if they are slow in a certain area, great, come help us do this boiler job, or we need to get this boiler job wired in, whether it's low voltage wiring or high voltage or whatever. It's just a way for everybody, because sometimes right now with our 5 or 6 divisions, we're busy in others and not as busy in others, but we're so busy, we need help, right? And that's where we can, rob from here and help in that industry. And it just kind of helps balance everything out at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. And I saw it now. Refrigeration is something that's even another new avenue.
And that was not even planned. And the reason
Okay.
why is because sometimes if you get into refrigeration, you got to go big, right? I just got off the
Sure.
phone call this morning for one of our clients. I wanted to know if we could go attend this call right away. And I said, I'm very honored and happy that you're wanting to use us. But right now we're HVAC R, but we're the little R right now. We're just diving
Okay.
into it. We have about 3 refrigeration technicians on staff, and we're growing with that. But the problem is too is that I know once you go, you got to go big, right, with it. So that's where I'm sometimes I have to stay within our lane and know where we're going with everything else before we start branching into a lot of that too. So major growing pains, Doug, major growing
Yeah.
pains, good growing pains, but it's just, you have options to go here, here, and here. But I'm sure the biggest thing is our technicians, right? Our service
Uh-huh.
technicians, finding good technicians and keeping them and not pissing them off and not overworking them, and trying to reward them in a fair and balanced way is probably one of the biggest hurdles and problems I deal with on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. Well, I saw earlier this year on LinkedIn, and this is why I kind of was a little interested in talking to you, because you posted Canuck Mechanical tripled in size last year, and our momentum has not stopped. And it was basically a help wanted ad. You're looking
Basically, yeah.
for people, right?
Yeah. No,
So
100%.
why do you think you're growing so well? Like what do you chalk that up to?
Well, I know there's many things, right? I think the heart of it, we got rid of a few staff members that perhaps didn't see the same vision as I did, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to stay in your lane, stay small, stay control. Me, I always thought, well, I know there's more work and more stress if we grow, but at the same token, growing's not a bad thing, right? Some of the most innovative and creative things in this world have been because things have grown. Like, the Dutch and the British and the trading networks that they developed, 400 years ago, it's because they grew and they were successful. And because of that, it led to more scientific discoveries and everything else, right? So growth is not a bad thing. Growth is always, in my opinion, a good thing. It's just making sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And
Yeah.
for me, customer service has always been a big thing, and reputation is huge. And one thing I'm proud of is if you look at our Google reviews, and this is just one example of many, we have more 5-star Google reviews than any of our competition in town anywhere. And you look at the electrical, you look at the plumbing, you look at the refrigeration. Some companies might have 10 or 15 or 20 or 100. You take 3 of our top closest competition, combine their Google reviews, we still outweigh them, right? So I like to believe customer service is the key thing to our growth and to why we've tripled in size. But there's a close cousin to that, the fact that treating your employees well and fairness and paying them well will also lead to that. And by doing both of those things, it's a self-perpetuating, example of how things can grow, right? If
Yeah.
you add 2 of those things together, just like a man and a woman, you're going to have a baby eventually, and that's how things grow, right? So, yeah.
Yep, no, absolutely. Okay. Well, you boast kind of having well-trained certified technicians, as well as the largest stocked trucks in town. But before we get to the trucks, so how do you find skilled workers in Prince George? Because and well, you can start with that, and then I know you've got an ongoing training program too for your employees. I'm hoping you can tell me about that.
Yeah, like so basically, when it comes to our employees, well, I guess really our trucks and our stock inventory, but basically when it comes to training, that's the expensive part, right? It's
Mhm.
always like, well, we can't necessarily charge for two people, but you need to learn, right? But when you do learn, when that dividend comes back to pay, then you're more experienced on the job side, right? So that's always one difficult side, is like knowing when to send somebody, when not to, and stuff like that. In the service industry, it's hard to have apprentices. It really is.
Yeah.
And in new construction, yeah, sure, you can have three apprentices, four apprentices to one journeyman on site, and you can make that work. But here, well, somebody wants a trained veteran when they're on their doorstep, right? So that's the key thing. But sometimes you got to bring somebody, especially if we're getting into refrigeration, air conditioning, whatever, we need to train those technicians, and have a bit more knowledge. The biggest thing right now is hydronics. It's hard for us to keep up with the hydronics and the training right now. So that's one thing we're really trying to promote and doing that. But of course, it costs money to do that. So, but yeah. Sorry, a question you were asking about the truck.
Do you have training opportunities in Prince George? Are there schools like
Yes.
locally or?
So I did my schooling in TRU in Kamloops. Love that place. It was wonderful for plumbing and gas fitting. But there's training all throughout the province. But here in town, we have the College of New Caledonia. They do an offer plumbing and kind of gas fitting for apprentices here. It used to be bigger when it was decades ago, and then it fell off the bandwagon. So it's kind of regaining its feet. Yeah, yeah. So basically, the college does electrical apprenticeships, plumbing, but they don't really do much in refrigeration or hydronics and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
we're kind of limited on that to work in house, right? When it comes to training. Usually, I try to reward some of our employees in going on trips and excursions to go do some of that training, whether it's going to a Navian or Renai training, whether it's out of town or in town too, whenever they have events on, which are usually never at the right time of year because we're always busy, it seems to be. But yeah,
Yeah.
training can come to us, but we can also go to it as well too. So
Okay.
yeah.
And okay, so not only your trucks, because your jobs as well, but talk about they're just you already mentioned it, how they're so well organized. Some might say a little too particular, but is that all you? And do you have a military background? Because things just seem there's a regiment to everything you do, it seems.
I don't have a military background, but do I love the military and World War II and history in general? You betcha. I
Okay.
actually have another YouTube channel that's called The Sky Marshal. And basically, it's all historical board gaming, right? And a lot of it's World War II, and I have different setups and stuff like that. So I am a huge fan of the military, but never ever had active military service. Just basically growing
Yeah.
up on war movies, Charlton Heston, Midway, all those old classics, and just yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of just what shaped my interest in it. And by
You
having that,
refer to your trucks as fleets, yes? And
yes,
you've
yeah.
got the first, second, third. Are you up to the
Yeah.
seventh fleet?
So this is the nerd in me just
Okay.
relaying that onto it, right? So yeah, technically there's an active six, seven, eight fleets out there. But they kind of go in with the divisions, right? So plumbing, air conditioning, electrical, and that's just how I compartmentalize everything in my head too, and it just helps me understand and grow, and it gives me order too as well, right? Hence why I like to have all the trucks the same, look all the same, as if every time you see that. And one of the greatest compliments I do get, Doug, is I see your trucks everywhere. And what they're truly saying, in my opinion, is that, yeah, you're seeing the same image every time. It's like when you go into McDonald's, you know what you're going to expect, right? And that's kind of what I always do. A lot of companies in town have every different truck and van you can imagine, every different brand name, and half the the logos don't line up, so everything looks different, and it doesn't get into your mind when you see that brand repetition, right? And I feel that is, but I think that's one key thing to our success is those small details that maybe that's where my fine-tuned mind dives into and looks at, because I truly believe that does make a difference. Even if it's at the subconscious level, I think
Yeah.
that has helped to grow our success, right? Because then you know what you're getting, right? Sometimes you go to a restaurant and you see 10 restaurants. Well, which one do I want to go to? Well, I know I'm going to have a really good meal at Earl's. I'm going to go to Earl's, right? Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get when you see it. Fun fact, I just had an interview 2 weeks ago with a person that came into my office, and he said, yeah, I'm kind of looking at, he's a plumber gas fitter looking for some employment. And I came to you because of basically all those things we just talked about. He looked at our Google reviews. He looked at our trucks. I gave him a tour of the office. I gave him a tour of our cube vans, showed how organized we are, what I expect out of the employees, and what ultimately, the image that we want to represent. And I'm like, do you want to be a part of this team? Right? That's kind of the thing. And he's gone through a few other companies. And then the same day he phoned back and said, no, I want to come and work at Canuck. And that just made me smile. Just because that's exactly what I want to attract. And it reminds me of this quote, Doug.
Yeah.
And it goes back a long time ago. It was kind of an elevator pitch that Steve Jobs, the owner of Apple,
Oh
gave
yeah.
to the CEO of Pepsi and said, do you want to keep on selling sugared water for the rest of your life, or do you want to have an opportunity to change the world? And he had gone to him many times before because he needed a CEO to run his company. And he says, no, not interested. But that one phrase, that one elevator pitch he gave to him was like that. And then he came and worked to Steve Jobs. And that's kind of how I look. Do you want to work for just a company? Is it just about money, Doug? Is it just about this? Or do you want to be challenged? Do you want to come to work with an amazing crew, a happy crew? Do you want all these things and more? Or is it just you just want a job? Because if you just want a job, this is not a company that you want to come here and work for, because I want more, I expect more, and you're going to get more. That's kind of how my motto is.
Okay, let's talk hydronics for a second. I know you've participated in our HPAC magazine Sweet Heat Hydronics installation contest. Every year it's been held. We're in our 6th year now. I hope you'll have something for us this year.
I'm saving some good stuff. There is going to
Okay,
be.
you've been a
betcha.
runner-up.
Yeah.
I know a couple of years. Last year you finally won in our residential
Yep.
retrofit category. So congratulations again on that.
Yep.
So I have personally seen all the entries that we received for the last 5, 6 years now. And I've observed how over the years, the Canuck logos that you stick on the boilers, they've gotten larger. And then there were more of them on the installs. And now, of course, there's not just stickers on the boiler, they're three-dimensional, transparent maple leaves. They're backlit. So like, dude, you truly make this an art. So I just want to know why and what's your motivation behind doing this?
I think you become a victim of your own success, and you're always wanting to do something different or change it up, or how can I make this better, and how can I make it more unique? How can I do something different again and again? And it's like an artist, trying to do that and create that and be like, oh God, now I got to do something better because I've set the bar standard. Now I got to go to the next step. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing at all. I found that that's sometimes a really good thing to inspire new innovation. Just like any major company out there, they got to keep on innovating, right? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can sit back and look at a job and be like, hey, let's just do the basic here. That's all we need to do, right? It doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal. But on those other jobs that kind of just grew from where we had gone, it all started about 4 or 5 years ago with one job, which I think now is one of our biggest YouTube videos, is about 100,000 at least on YouTube. And it was very simple and basic. And Doug, the amount of hate I got on YouTube blew my mind. And then I know. And that's the funny thing, is it kind of blew my mind too, because when you shake up the bag or change the industry or do something like that, you're always going to get stiff reaction, and to this day, I look back and I laugh, because sometimes those are the greatest compliments, is some of the hate stuff. And it's just like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do this? And then I realized some of these people don't even know what they're talking about, but because they're maybe jealous, or maybe just because they don't appreciate it, that's how they lash out on it. So that I took from that, and I said, I'm just going to make it better and better, to the point now when I post a YouTube video or stuff, I don't usually get that. But I found through this industry and talking to other people, You get that a lot. And it's usually people that are just jealous or people that just don't want to go the extra mile. And it's easier to point fingers and make arguments rather than be like, hey, good on you, bud. So but back
Yeah.
to the Maple Leafs and the whole thing there is just brand repetition and logo. If we can stand out, make something look good, kind of to borrow from a slogan, make boilers great again, make a system look sexy, rather than just a bunch of tangled wires and messy piping. And I see it all the time. Why can't we clean this up? And you know what? Here's the thing, Doug. It takes the same amount of time to do it that way. When I'm in a mechanical room, I'm cleaning a fitting and I'm looking at where my next angle is going to be. I'm always constantly thinking how I'm going to move this forward. And whereas some people can't plan that out in their mind, then draw it out on a piece of paper. When everything gets put on the wall there, then that's usually when the lighting comes in. Okay, now how can we accent this? How can we make this look good? Sometimes with a lot of the designs I do, it changes, or I'll figure out, oh, we're going to run out of room here, and I want this symmetry. I want this balance between here and here. So consequently, you have to be able to adapt with each situation and in each challenge. So consequently, it's really hard for me to design systems. It's better off to get the boiler in place, get this in place, get the hydraulic separator or whatever it is, get everything in place, and then work with that design from there. And sometimes pick a color pattern, pick whatever you need to go from there. And there is a lot of extra time I'll give in because a lot of these jobs are all quoted. And if I'm going to, spend an extra $1,000 here and there, it's going to be on my dime to make this look good. But I know it's going to pay me dividends because this will be on YouTube. Maybe not forever, but it'll be on there for a long time. And it's good advertising. It'll be a good visual representation. It'll help me sell the next boiler quote. Doing a YouTube video or an Instagram video is great for showing how things are going to look at the end of the day, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, over the past 6 years, your presence on social media has
Yeah.
ballooned, I think,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, you were posting hydronic installations on Instagram. Now you've got over, I think it's 2,200 followers on
Yeah.
Instagram,
Mhm.
2,500 subscribers on YouTube,
Yeah.
watching your installation videos. And it's been quite a year. You won the HVAC Tactical Hydronic Hotshot Award
Yeah.
earlier this year.
I was actually
There it
so proud
is.
of it. I actually had something custom made up there, so that was actually really cool.
Oh, sweet.
When I was talking to the owner of HVAC, he said, "Yeah, they're basically giant challenge coins." And I thought, well, let's make something really cool out of this and put it in the middle, right? So, but yeah,
Very nice.
so
Some people might not know HVAC Tactical, but it's kind of a brand almost, or
yes,
a blue collar HVAC trade. What do they call it? Supporting a mindset, I think,
yeah,
of supporting the trade. Started by Ben Poole down in Texas. There's
Ben,
clothing and
exactly.
gear.
Yeah,
He's got a magazine and this annual awards gala that he holds at around the time of AHR, right down
yeah.
in the U.S. So
Which is second to none. I was blown away on how amazing it is, and he's done a lot for the industry, Ben. I've met him a few times, and I can't say enough about that. And that is really cool. And honestly, I just hope it grows. What blows me away about that is that how many Canadians, especially last year or this year alone,
yeah,
win. In comparison to the population between the United States and Canada, like we're 10 to 1, and yet sometimes Canada sweeps most of the awards, and it's because our standards are usually so high, right? And I often think, well, I'm nothing special, but when you compare to some other people out there, I'm just wow, we have a lot of talent in this country,
yeah.
so it's just it's proud to be Canadian. Hence, that's why I do rock the brand wherever I go. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so we've kind of touched on your creative work. You're inspired to do this, raising the bar every time you do it. And it's a benefit to the company, like you're saying. If someone goes into a house and they see the boiler room, I'm sure your customers are proud of their boiler rooms. It's not just a closet.
Oh, 100%. And for some people it will be, right? And that's all it
Yeah,
will be. And that's great.
yeah,
Some people, and some realtors have caught on, man, this is great marketing, like especially when people want to sell their house or whatever, right?
yeah.
And that's that's how I look at it, right? Some people, a kitchen is everything in a house, right? And that's true. I mean, it is one of the most expensive rooms in your house, and the heart of your home is that kitchen. But if you don't have domestic hot water, if you don't have heating and cooling, your house is not very comfortable for very long, right? And if you're going to go into your mechanical room, and sometimes mechanical rooms are storage rooms, sometimes mechanical rooms are more than just that. Sometimes they're in the basement next to your movie theater room. It can be a show off place, but it can also be an area where you can come in there and be like, it just makes you smile. It gives you satisfaction. And that's where adding that lighting aspect to what usually is a dingy looking mechanical room combined with clean and straight pipes and plumbing. And that's why I like to use copper more than anything else, because not only does it shine and look good, but it makes an industry of good people. Because if you put a crooked pipe in, you're going to see it, you're going to know it, right? That's one thing, and I should just get onto this too, because it really stirs my soul. Is when you have stuff like track pipe and gas tight and PEX, and all this flexible stuff coming out there. That's great. It's good, and there's nothing wrong against it, and it always serves a purpose in certain areas. I just believed over the course of 20 years, it's led to an industry of people that don't have pride in their work, because they slap it up and it looks like a bunch of spaghetti. Whereas if you thread something, or if you solder in something, or fuse something, even for that matter, you know, if it's plumb and straight, you can have pride in the fact that, what, I took the time to put a level on that and it looks straight and plumb to me. And that's where I firmly believe a lot of this quick stuff is not necessarily the best long term for our trades. But
Uh, this is a bit of a technical question, but I'm just curious. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. I've seen you've used the polypropylene, right? That Aquatep pipe that
yeah,
fusion.
the Aquatherm, yeah, Climatherm, yeah,
Aquatherm, sorry.
yeah,
Aquatherm.
yeah.
How do you decide if you're going to use that or copper on a job? Just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, honestly, the thing is, I know Aquatherm sometimes gets a bad rap, and the problem is that I, I I like it for a lot of reasons. Sometimes in the domestic world it can have some issues, but in the hydronics, I think it's amazing. I think it's really cool. One of the reasons why I like it is because there's no shark bite that goes to it. It's meant for professionals, in my opinion. And you got to think
Okay.
ahead when you fuse something together in a corner or T. You got to figure out how I'm going to connect this. It's made and should be for professionals, and it is, right? And that's one of the reasons why I like it, is it gives me control over that system too. But also, one thing I like about it is when you fuse it, now the fitting becomes twice as strong as the original pipe. When every time you solder or crimp, um, or tighten or thread in a joint, that's actually usually the weakest part of the whole system. But fusing, it's the total opposite. And that's what blew my mind when I first, fell in love with it. It can be a cost thing, especially with the valves and stuff like that. And it does take time. And usually I'm probably the only real technician that likes to use it on there. So it's really a love situation, if I really want to, if I think this is going to make sense, right? So sometimes it's
Mhm.
more of the personal systems coming home, unless it's requested, but usually most people don't really care. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the business. You are the company leader. I'm just wondering, how would you describe yourself as a leader?
I honestly, at the end of the day, Doug, and this is the humbleness of me. I don't, as much as I love the military and I love the hierarchy and everything, and I have fun with it and I nerd about it. I'm not always thinking I'm the best leader, because sometimes, I mean, as the owner, you got to make tough decisions, right? And sometimes it just comes, no, we got to do this. We cannot do this, right? Sometimes it's about customer service. No, you know what? Nobody's available to go do this call. I'm going to go get my coveralls in midnight, go do this call. If we have three people that are on call and they're busy, I'm coming out and helping them in the trenches too. That's why I always show up to work in coveralls most of the time anyways, because I'm always ready to go. I'm always working, even though I might be in this office a lot, and I should be in this office more than I am. My first love is going out in the field and making those customers happy and doing those jobs and making sure that they're done right. So consequently, if I'm out in the field, is anybody leading? And that's where, for me, I rely big on my division leads. So like electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, I have basically leads for all of that I say, delegate here, take care of this, with our team of 6 people underneath you, go deal with this, go do that or whatever, right? And I'm the backup. I'm also the backup too, if there's an emergency, okay, I'm gone, I got to go help, got to go do this, right? And usually because, and I know it kind of all mingles together, but because I'm organized, because I have a stocked cube van, those jobs can be quick and easy and I can be back in the office. So to give you the response about a leader, I may not be the best leader in the world, right? But I like to lead by example, knowing that I'm going to do whatever you can do. If you're going into dirty crawl space, I do that. If I'm going to go into a sewage lift pump station, I'm going to do that. I have no fear, no problem. That's where I like my best leadership skills is lead by example. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
get dirty. Don't be afraid to go out there. And as long as my body's always going to be willing to give me that advantage, I'm going to be out there in the field as much as I can. But that is a
Definitely.
tough thing because I know now more and more I'm required in here just for the day-to-day administration stuff. And I don't have an answer for that, Doug. I
Yeah.
really don't know. And I think time will solve that for me. And eventually, if I'm going to be stuck in here, then that's just the way it is. But I'd like to at least instill all the qualities of my workmanship to as many people before I fully get entrenched in here full time all the time. So
Yeah,
yeah.
one of our previous folks spoke about the fact that you need to, it's hard to be working in the business when you need to be working on the business,
A
right?
hundred percent. Yeah.
So I see that's a struggle for you because you like to get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, how do you grow then if you're not working on the business, right? Well,
yeah,
that's just it. You delegate, right? And that's the thing. And
yeah.
the biggest thing for me the last few years is to delegate. Okay, we got 5 boiler jobs that we just got in. Well, I can't do them all. Okay, delegate. Can you take care of this one? Can you go do this one? And it's just trying to figure out priorities. I going back to the military thing, I was watching a thing, I think it was on Instagram a while ago about Eisenhower just before they were invading Normandy before D-Day. So much. It was all on him. He had a plan. He had to figure out everything. So ultimately, he had a pile of stuff. Okay, is this urgent? Does it need to be dealt with? Nope. Put it off to the side. Delegating with the priority stuff at the time, right? And that's ultimately what I have to do. Sometimes this desk is just full of stuff, and sometimes it's cleared out because I can delegate out to those things. And if you don't trust the people you're working with, what's the point? Sometimes I will butt head with some of my division leads because I'm like, well, this probably does make more sense and more effective, and I'll tell you why. And then sometimes I'm wrong too. And no, let's go, let's do it your way, right? And that's
Yeah.
the thing, probably going back to being a good leader, Doug, is just knowing when you're wrong, right? And when you're right.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. This you mentioned your father way back and these big trucks having to bring supplies in and out. And I was just wondering, in Prince George, is your plumbing and mechanical business well served by your wholesalers locally? And do you have some go-tos, or you
We
keep your
do.
trucks stocked? So I mean, you're well supplied up there?
I find we're pretty good for the north, better than some smaller communities. A lot of smaller communities will come here. We're not as good as potentially the Vancouvers and the Edmontons and the Calgarys of the world because sometimes they're distribution hubs right here.
Yeah.
But some of our main boiler reps like Navien and Renai, they will give us parts, so we have parts on hand, or they'll be quickly here to have. Um, but sometimes I've found even our own suppliers, and I know a lot of them are profit centers, so they don't like to have stock, even though if you don't have anything, how can you sell it, right? And that's my biggest beef. So sometimes, okay, I will stock it. I know I'm going to use it. It's not going to be dead stock. It might be 9 months before I use it, but I know I'm going to stock and I'm going to use it, right? So, but consequently, yes, some of my favorites in town are the Emcos and Andrew Sherritts, just because I believe they have the same premise as me. Stock it. Let's have a crap ton of them. If you know a half-inch soldered 90, you're going to sell 100 of them in a day. You should be having 1,000 of them in stock all the time, right? It's just as simple as that. And that's one of the reasons why some of these suppliers in town are better than others because they see the long-term gain. It's a fine line, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely having it in the truck though is easier for me. Yes, you're wasting more fuel and more gas And, yes, there's inventory there that, might take a while to cycle out. But when I go into a house, Doug, if there's a plumbing problem, 9 times out of 10, I will be able to fix it with everything in my truck and not go to the suppliers. I will go to the suppliers every day, but usually once to restock or get something that I do need. Whereas I'll see a lot of our competition, a lot of our other uh, direct competition going to the suppliers 6 or 7 times a day, almost for every
Mhm.
job, right?
Yeah.
And this goes to one important thing. We are probably one of the more expensive companies in town, but are we the cheapest? If we show up and fix a call in an hour and charge you our whatever it is and our markup, and the other company took 2 hours because they had some travel time to and from the suppliers, but they charged you 2 hours, well, who is the more expensive company at the end of the day, right? And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's very good. Okay, you know what? I think we've talked a lot about the business. Can you tell me about the Kelly Cup? I believe this was the 100th year anniversary of the Kelly Cup.
yeah, no,
Tell me about that.
that tugs at my heartstrings a lot because it's been around, well, yeah, basically 100 years, probably
What
even a
is the
little bit
Kelly
more.
Cup? Yeah, you got
Kelly
to tell
Cup,
us.
yeah, the Kelly Cup, basically, it's the world's largest and probably the longest curling tournament in the world, and it's right here in Prince George. There's other tournaments, don't get me wrong, that are probably longer, in some ways have gone through ups and downs, but we have the world's largest curling trophy. It is a monster. It's like 6 feet tall. It's made out of solid silver. Well, it's a cup, so obviously it's not full of silver in there, but it was designed by a jeweler 100 years ago, and basically grew from there, just like anything. And over the years, it got to the point where 128 teams would play in this event, and you would literally go for 5 days straight, curling around the clock. It was probably one of the most amazing sporting events this city has ever seen, ever since, before or then too, right? It's gone downhill a bit just with anything, but it's still a tradition it's been around for a long time. And for people out there that are curlers or love to watch curling, I think they'll understand the passion for me. I was fortunate enough to win it with my team back in 2010, which was a big year for me, a really big year, and I actually really cherish that. Since then, I've been in the finals 4 times and only won it once back in 2010. And it's a tough one to win. It is a tough event because it's grueling. Sometimes you're playing 11 games over the course of 3 or 4 days. And yeah, ultimately, Canuck has stepped up in being one of its, chief sponsors. And we put a lot of money into restoring the trophy, building a case for it and stuff like that, because just like anything, I love history and I love preserving history. You don't have much of a sense of direction unless you know where you came from, right? And to me, that's where it is. If you're going to go forward in the future, you have to know where you came from. And suppressing history or changing history, I have no time for that. I love embracing history, whether it's good or bad or ugly, knowing what it was and how it is, and knowing all the little quirks here and there. It just helps you make you a better person, whether it's in your industry or in a sporting event, or a company for that matter. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so, did you guys win this year or
No, we uh,
no?
we won
Okay.
the A event. Now the Kelly Cup is comprised of 5 events,
Okay.
and everybody starts in the A event. And if you win, you keep on going until you either win the A event, but you will eventually qualify to go into the Kelly Cup if you get to the semis of the A event, which is what we did. But also, you also get to qualify for the Kelly Cup if you go down into the B event, which is what, 4 teams in the B event, 4 teams in the A event, and then you have 8 teams in the Kelly Cup that battle off. We won our first game in the Kelly Cup round, but we lost our semifinal, unfortunately, to a former world curling champion, and his team, which was no big deal. Sometimes that happens, but yeah, no. Not only is Canuck a big donor and sponsor to this, I guess I'm lucky enough to be up on that echelon of having a really good team and playing with some really good guys. So
Are you
yeah.
are you the skip by chance?
No, no, no. I've skipped
No.
in my junior years, but I usually like playing second or third. I like getting
Okay.
into the trenches, as you know, right? I like
Yeah.
being down there and dirty and just fighting hard. So, but yeah, no, I have a really good skip who's been with me for 20 years, and we always come in and play in the Kelly Cup. So yeah, good group
All
of
right.
guys.
And the John Williams Cup?
Yeah, so the John Williams Cup is actually a terrace tournament. So that's
That's
it's called
Terrace,
the log.
BC.
Yeah. So it's six hours west of us, and
Okay.
we, as a tradition, our team always goes out that way too. And it's kind of one of the bigger Western tournament cups up there. And we finally won it a second year because we won it in 2015, and of course now in 2026. So it was a good
Okay.
year. And I'll be honest with you, Doug, it feels hollow and shallow because I really wanted to win a triple cup this year. I wanted to win the A event, the Loggers event, and the Kelly Cup, but unfortunately we only got two out of the three, and I guess that's not bad. So
It's
yeah.
not bad at all. Not bad at all. Okay. Well, two more questions, and then I'm going to close it out for us if you still got some time.
Yeah.
Um, I called you last year after you'd won the Sweet Heat competition, and you were on the road to a fishing trip, and I think it was on Vancouver Island, and I think we lost. You were out of cell service. You were like
Yes.
off the
Yep.
grid. Is
Yeah.
fishing one of your passions as well?
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Renai was very gracious to take me and one of my work colleagues down there on a little sturgeon excursion,
Oh,
and it was a lot of
sturgeon.
fun. And I posted some pictures on Instagram there of the giant 11-foot sturgeon we brought up from the bottom of the river. That was just a monster. It took three of us to reel that bad boy in, but it was amazing. We caught some smaller ones, but it was an amazing fishing trip. Probably, and I fished all over the world, Doug. I've fished in the Great Barrier Reef off Australia. I've gone into the Caribbean. I've caught sailfish and marlin. But that one experience here close to home, that sturgeon fishing, was probably one of my favorite and most exciting experiences I've ever had. And who knew, right here in BC, which I think for some of the listeners there, if you're ever looking for great sturgeon fishing or fishing in general, because sturgeons are not the most common fish in the world, but definitely in the western part of North America here, they're a little bit more predominant. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of exciting. And usually, whenever I go away on any trip, wherever it is in the world,
Yeah.
can we book a fishing trip? Can we go fishing? Even if it's not a big fish, whatever. It's all those lovely things. I actually like I usually get them mounted, or if it's sizable fish, I'll get Gray's Taxidermy to mount, and I have a nice big wall at home of all these
Oh,
these lovely fish. It's kind of it's a passion of mine, and it's just and the great thing is that they're all fiberglass replicas, right? So there's no real fish there, and
okay.
I prefer to eat them. Just like if you're a hunter, I'd like to eat the fish. I like to have that whole experience of the whole situation. So yeah.
Very nice. Okay, my last question has to do with Canuck Mechanical again. I'm just, as the leader of the company, you've got to have some kind of plan. So where do you see yourself in the next 3 years, Canuck Mechanical in Prince George, BC?
I don't know, and
Yeah.
I say that humbly because uh, in many ways I feel I almost want to pull back the strings a bit in the fact that we're growing so rapidly, but I want to make sure we don't ruin the quality of workmanship. We don't burn out our guys. So consequently, it's a tough avenue for me going down this road because I want to keep what we have. It's always nice to expand, but sometimes the best expansion is to be a bit conservative going forward in the future, right? New construction builders have actually reached out to us now, say, hey, are you interested in doing some of these projects, which is what we've never gone down before because A, there's no money in it, but B, we don't ever have the time to do it. And that's the problem. We're usually always busy dealing with one emergency after another, after another, after another. So that's what we are. We're kind of first responders in our field, especially being in the service industry.
Yeah.
So consequently, I like to say slow and steady wins the race here. And as much as I love expanding, I think some consolidation is needed. Right now, currently, we're building well, actually, we're expanding. We've taken over more area in our building that we are currently in, just to help expand. But we're actually probably looking at expanding 24 more offices, just for actually our technicians, right? So we probably are planning on dedicating 12 just to the HVAC, six to the plumbing, and six to the electrical. And obviously, I'll keep that in social media and posting that too, because I do want to create that image of not only what we do in the field in our trucks, but also here in the office too. I want to create a great environment for our employees, whether they're the administration or whatever, that, hey, not only do I want to come to work in the morning, I want to come here because it's a great place to be at with great people, and also going out in the field. And we have the best trucks, the most stock trucks. It's the consolidation, I think, is going to be the name to the game right now of just trying to work on a better inner structure before we maybe look at that next expansion. So,
Well,
yeah.
so this, I have to add one more thing then. I did talk, when you talk about the Canuck group of companies, there's Canuck
Yes.
Mechanical, Canuck
Yeah.
Holdings,
Yeah.
Canuck Center.
Yes. So basically, how this year has just, and once again, it's just so much. So basically, the Canuck group of companies basically just is a formation now that we've kind of started keeping with that Canuck brand. So obviously, Canuck Mechanical has been around. It's the bread and butter of and the heart of basically everything that we do, and it has its own growth and its own growth problems. But the alloc or the consuming of the building that we have right now is basically what Canuck Holdings has been developed to, right? Just because with our buildings and our other ventures right now, this is what we're going to be looking at and focusing on. And of course, now with that becomes now we become commercial landlords too with other tenants and whatnot. So that's another struggle that we've been done and spending time and energy because even the building that we're in, not the most nicest building in the world, but if you know me and my aspirations, it's going to look amazing in due time. So that's obviously another hurdle, but spending money, you got to, it takes money to spend money and vice versa, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at right now. Canuck also is probably venturing into some other investment groups, which is another thing. But yeah, Canuck Center is going to be basically our new hub of operations, right? Once we get everything up and running. But all in due time, and it's exciting, and sometimes it's just like, okay, whoa, gotta tone it back here, just baby steps, right? So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
A lot going on. A lot going on.
Oh no, no, 100%. And you know what? I think it keeps me young, not only to being a father to some young kids, 4 and 7 years old this year.
Okay.
I have no life. Even my personal life is dedicated either to work or family, and I come in and maybe a distant third at that point. So I'll say this to any listeners out there that have young families and their own businesses or just working for somebody. And I've said this to my own employees, family comes first, right? There will always be somebody there to pick up the slack and work. But if you don't have your family, if you don't have that institution, that rock that, literally brings you joy every day, what's the point of living, right? I used to be a workaholic. I guess still am, but I truly believe family, and it's a cliche thing, Doug, but it's true. Family is the most important thing in the world because you know what? When you're long dead and buried, the only legacy that you have is going to be your kids and their great grandkids. Statues fade, buildings crumble, businesses disappear, but your legacy and your family is by far the most important thing. So,
James, very good words. I actually I happen to see that I don't know where I saw this, but your birthday is July 24th. Is that right?
yes, yeah, yeah,
It
you bet.
happens to be my father's birthday as well, and he turns 90 this year. So
That is
yeah, we
awesome.
keep family pretty
Yeah,
close. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a pretty important thing. So thank you for
100%.
sharing that, and thank you for sharing everything about Canuck Mechanical. And keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. You're disrupting the business in many ways, and love to see it. So
I appreciate
thank
it.
you so much. Okay. Thanks again to James Blanchett for sharing the story of Canuck Mechanical. It's a business that keeps growing to better serve the needs of its community. And while James comes across as almost a reluctant leader, he does lead by example, raising the bar in the work that he does, especially those hydronics installations, and all the efforts he makes to elevate the Canuck brand. He also understands that life's not just about building the business, but also sharing great experiences, whether that's on the curling rink or on a fishing boat, and never forgetting about the legacy that you're leaving behind as an individual. I'm always open to hearing from you, the HVAC and plumbing community across Canada. Who's disrupting the business in your community? Is it you? Let me know. I can be reached at editor@hpacmag.com. That's editor at hpacmag.com. Once again, I'd like to thank Wolseley Canada for supporting this edition of the Business Disruptors podcast. And remember, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and also on our YouTube channel. The Business Disruptors podcast is an HPAC magazine production. Thank you to Jim Stubbington of Annex Business Media for post-production engineering, and thank you again to Peter Leonard for our theme music. I look forward to sharing more conversations in the next edition of Business Disruptors, an HPAC magazine production. Bye for now.